Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Hi there, everybody. Welcome. Here's where I'd like to start. I've got a few housekeeping things to mention here real quick, just sort of off the top. First of all, I most certainly want to thank Sarah, of course, for being on the episode on Monday. Again, she's certainly been through the ringer, as I know a lot of excellent educators have. And of course, as we know, many have left the profession, and I just completely commend every single thing that she did. Again, her and Cicely and endless other educators that, again, I've talked with, including the parents who pulled their children out of school. You've all done exactly what you were supposed to do. You either stood your ground against the tyranny, you walked away from the business, or you pulled your children out. And those are all commendable moves. There's no doubt about it. So I applaud all of you, and I certainly applaud Sarah for what she did and standing up for what she knew to be right and what is right. And also leading by example regarding her own students. That was very well done. I've also very briefly glanced at the 200-some-odd page investigation of her that was created by the district that she did send my way, that she, of course, referenced in that episode, and it's alarming. Again, you can clearly see that they were taking pictures of her with her mask around her chin and her mask around her neck and not wearing the mask, while some other students apparently were wearing it and others were not. It's also pretty evident, again, when it came to the whole exemption thing, that the exemptions were offered and she filled them out, but then they were denied. At least that certainly seemed to be the case based on what I took a look at and, of course, what she said. But, yeah, it's absolutely awful. And then, of course, they chalk it up to you being insubordinate. Again, if you're going to have the exemptions, as I've said in the past, why would you deny them? The very presence of having a so-called exemption is that you would have to accept it once it was filled out properly and then handed back in. You can't deny an exemption that you're actually offering. It makes zero sense. So, again, they want compliance. The entire business just wants compliance. And I have numerous examples later on here of the kind of confusion that exists within the business of education, in particular when it comes to money. Because, again, the entire business is run by fools. And even the elected individuals, as we know, who are school board members, even they have no idea what they're doing. They're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. And they clearly don't understand that their job is to tell the truth and balance the books, and that's it. They don't have any other job. But unfortunately, they've all politicized their positions, and they take political stances on everything, and then they write stupid memos, and then, again, when the whole house of cards starts to cave in and they're underneath it, they have no idea that they're the ones responsible for bringing it all down. And of course, as we all know too, we're living through that right now. We are living through the destruction of the education business in America, and I love it. I think it's a great thing. So there you go. Wanted to mention that off the top. Also wanted to mention this. I'm pointing out my own hypocrisy on this, but I had no choice. I had to ultimately buckle to this. I mentioned a while back, a few months back, that Gab, as a social media platform, was basically forcing people to get pro accounts by spending, again, $100 a year on a pro account, because if you don't have a pro account on Gab, then you're limited as to how many posts you can make per day, and you're also unfortunately limited as to the size of the post, in particular when it comes to the video length, or the video size, or the file, basically, the file size. So I was trying to upload, not being a pro member anymore at the time, I was trying to upload a particular video, and it wouldn't go. And it said, sorry, you're not a pro member. You can't do that. The file's too big, blah, blah, blah. And all it was like a 3 or 4 minute video. And I thought, well, damn it, I've got to get a pro account now. Because if I don't, then again, this entire year, certainly being an election year, I'm not going to be able to post as often as I want and post the kinds of things that I think people need to see, including particular videos that I want people to look at. So, again, whether it's just me shit posting something or it's me actually being educational and trying to educate people on a particular thing, I certainly want that ability and I want to be able to do that. So I did fork over the $100 and give it to them. And yeah, so my pro account's back up on Gab, but I know I'm being hypocritical on that point. I wish, again, that people weren't limited as to what they can post and the size of their posts and things like that. But Yeah, I don't run the company. It's too bad, but it's still a free speech platform by and large, which is great, and I hope that doesn't change. Either way, yeah, a little hypocritical on that on my part, but I felt like I didn't have a choice, um, based on what I wanted to do anyway. So there's that. Okay, here's the next thing: Substacks and Substack posts and Substack articles. I found that the timing of this to be kind of interesting. I had a very interesting text discussion with the author agent over there at chemtrails.substack.com, who, of course, is also our Michigan business friend that I reference with regularity. And they want their anonymity, and I fully understand why. They too have been attacked for the things that they've written, and they write a lot of intense stuff and deep investigations, and they should be applauded for that without a doubt. But we were talking about just the use of Substack back and forth, and she simply suggested that I post more over on Substack. And I thought, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Again, it kind of depends month to month. Sometimes I post one article a month, sometimes I post once a week, sometimes it's multiple times a week, but I try to keep it around maybe two a month because I don't want to overwhelm the entire page. But I thought to myself, again, being an election year, there's a number of different things I want to get out there. And the Substack audience is kind of its own audience. I mean, it's you individuals, of course, who listen to this show. And thank you, by the way, for reading the Substacks if you do, and certainly listening to this. But at the exact same time, I thought to myself, well, I could post more on Substack, and they don't have to be long form articles all of the time. It could be maybe a video that I think is important that, I'm interested in maybe people watching and broadening their education a little bit on a particular issue. And there you have it. So that's what I've been doing here recently. I've basically been flooding Substack with a number of different things. Of course, Sarah's episode is also on there. I wrote a very quick Substack regarding the Storm books that are free and available on my website. In fact, a couple of them weren't, as it turns out. For some reason, they got deleted, but they're up. They're back up there now. If anybody's interested in checking those out, they certainly can. Again, they're all free PDFs. And then I've got two more this week. I have one coming out tomorrow, I believe. Oh, I guess it would be Wednesday. One on Wednesday regarding a video that I saw of Melissa McAtee and Justin Leslie, the two Pfizer whistleblowers. And for the first time, they were having a discussion at the exact same time with Greg Reese of InfoWars fame over there and all of his Reese reports. And it's about an hour and 28 minutes long, and it really is fascinating. So again, I just very quickly threw that video up there. That will be available on Wednesday. And you can bounce over to the americanclassroom.substack.com and check that out if you're interested. Again, the two of them talk about a number of different things in the working environment that we haven't heard anybody discuss. James O'Keefe hasn't brought this stuff up. And this is really important stuff. And again, in my opinion, I think it's certainly worth it. They talk about other political things as well, but by and large, it has to do with what was going on at Pfizer and the two locations where they were working, the kinds of people that they actually hire. And that was also alarming because they're not looking for educated individuals, as you might expect. They're looking for compliant individuals. And they break that down with a great deal of specificity, which is fantastic. So either way, that'll be available on Wednesday. And then on Friday, I have another one coming out that is a giant list. It's a 20-some-odd point list, including articles and headlines of what the government is doing to us regarding biowarfare. And this particular list was brought to my attention also by Sabrina Wallace over on her channel, P Synergy, over at Odyssey. And it's alarming as well, as you might expect, but it is stone cold proof, without a doubt, that they've been writing about this for a very long time. They've been researching all of this for a very long time, biowarfare, technology, how to use all of that stuff against us to kill us. And so again, if you're interested in convincing somebody that they are in fact doing this, that particular Substack article would be one that you could easily share with just about anybody and say, oh yeah, they're not doing this? Take a look at this. Because again, it's just a 20-some-odd point list of all of the things that they're doing, and the only thing that I did to edit that giant list was I included some screenshots of the actual headlines of the articles. And some of those articles are deleted, which also shouldn't be shocking for people because, again, that's what the enemy does. When we get a little too close to what the enemy's doing, they'll delete a particular paper or a particular website or a post that they make. But either way, a lot of them are still available on this particular list. And it goes back decades. And a lot of it is even recent. And so, yeah. But that's going to be available on Friday, and it's very alarming. But it's certainly worth our education and I think worth our time. So there you go. I got a couple of things here real quick regarding Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and I wanted to make this available again to anybody out there, and you, of course, can check this out on your own, and you can even download these on your own and share them wherever you want. You can bounce over to my Gab page, and they're available there too. The first, of course, was a video that was bouncing around BitChute the other day of security footage inside of a hotel room, or not even a room, but a hallway rather, inside of a hotel of that Hunter Biden was staying in with a hooker, clearly. And the hooker is seen running out of the room inside the hotel down the hallway, and then a naked Hunter Biden is chasing after her. He eventually catches up to her, of course, off camera anyway, and then drags her back through the hallway, back toward the room where she is seen screaming, and there's no volume associated with it, but that's what's happening, and she tries to keep herself from entering the room as she's being drugged on her back, and then back into the room they go. Again, this right here should prove to people that we live with an enemy government. That the government is protecting almost everybody within government at our expense, and they're not showing us the truth about what's really going on with these people. So when footage like this is released and is widely available on the internet, we have a responsibility to share this with just about everyone. Again, whether it's to educate, outrage, inform, continue to highlight the hypocrisy of the media and how they'll never even touch such a story with a 10-foot pole, that right there should be more than enough proof that the government and the media are our number one enemies. And they, of course, want us dead. But again, when footage like this exists, we have to expose the people who are in the footage all of the time. Again, regardless of how uncomfortable the video or the post may actually be. So that's over on Gab. I even put it in the last war video. You're welcome to check that out. You can clip it, splice it, do whatever you want, and move it around. People need to see this kind of stuff, as horrible as it is. So there's that. There's also this, and this is kind of big, and I reposted this just the other day on Gab from last August when I first came across this and first posted it. And I'm going to describe this yet again. And I will also post this in the next war video on Wednesday as well. This was a particular Chanboard post that someone made, and they took a screenshot from when Joe Biden was very famously standing behind Chris Coons' daughter, Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. And his family is there as they're being inaugurated, of course, when Obama was in office and Biden was the vice president. And he very famously leans in and attempts to kiss Chris Coons' 13-year-old daughter and whispers in her ear. And the link to watch the video and actually listen to what he says to Chris Coons' daughter is also in the post itself. And you can bounce over to that website and you can hear it yourself. He is heard actually saying the following quote. He says, quote, to Chris Coons' daughter, "Do you know how horny I am to have a 13-year-old girl standing right next to me?" And then he leans in for a kiss and she moves away. And then there you have it. Again, it's this kind of stuff that we have to continuously push out there so that people can see this, hear this, and understand this. Yes, we know Joe Biden is a pedophile. We know he's a murderer. We know these things. This is undeniable truth. But what we have to do is we have to take posts like this and we have to push them out on all social media platforms, all video platforms. It's things like this that I hate the word viral, as you might expect, but it's things like that that really do need to go everywhere. And people need to see them. And I mean, they need to trend on on X and every other social media platform. We have to force even the conservative Con Inc. people into playing that video and splicing it correctly so that you can hear him, you can see the words at the bottom of the screen, turn up the volume, and actually hear him saying this to Chris Coons' daughter. This has to be done. Real America's Voice needs to play this. I mean, where are they? Why are they not showing the Hunter Biden laptop videos and some of these other things that exist, like the one I just described with him pulling a hooker down a hallway? I mean, why are they not playing that? They could. It's free information. It's out there. It's available. It's not against the law to show it. It seems like kind of a big deal, doesn't it? But where's Steve Bannon on this? Where's old Charlie Kirk and the rest of those pale nitwits over at Tim Pool's show? Why are they not showing this? Why are they not playing this with regularity every single time that they have a particular episode? Now, again, I know they're on YouTube and they'd probably lose their channel and whatever else, but they could post it just about anywhere they wanted. Do they not know that this footage exists? Do they not know that Joe Biden actually said that to Chris Coons' daughter? And that Chris Coons' wife is standing next to Chris Coons right behind his daughter? And that there's no flippin' way that she, as a mother, didn't hear Joe Biden say that? There's no way. Not to mention, if you're a 13-year-old girl and you hear the Vice President of the United States whisper that in your ear, aren't you going to tell somebody? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do right now. I'll just play it. I'll play this moment here when Joe Biden actually says this to Chris Coons' daughter. Now, it's tough to hear, which is why you have to watch the video. When you see the video, when you see his lips move, and then, of course, you hear him say it, and then you combine that with the actual quotation of him saying, "Do you know how horny I am to have a 13-year-old girl standing right next to me," unquote. And then again, he says something like, "Oh, you're so cute," or something like that. And she goes, "Thanks." And then that's the end of the clip. But again, that's why seeing the clip, it has to be spliced, basically, is what I'm saying. Somebody has to take the clip and then put their own closed caption underneath it of him actually saying it, because it's real. He's actually saying it. But either way, I'm going to play that right now. And again, it's hard to hear. And he kind of speaks a little quickly, so if you even slowed it down a little bit, you would probably be able to isolate it even more and hear it even more clearly. With that said, again, it's rough audio, but here's the clip in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, nice to see you guys.
Again, he started off by saying, "By the way." He goes, "By the way," and then he leans in, and then he says it. It's, again, people have to hear this. They have to see this clip. I'm shocked that this hasn't been making the rounds. So I've spent too much time on it, but you get the point. Either way, I'll even link that in the description below if you're interested in actually seeing what I'm talking about here. And again, I've mentioned this on the show before, but I wanted to bring this up again. Election year. And yeah. We just have to flood the entire space with this kind of crap, and I know it's awful, but it's the truth, and people need to know how horrible these human beings are, and they're not human beings; they're monsters. So, with that said, again, I will link that in the description below, and it is approximately at the 52-minute mark, and then you can see the whole thing for yourself. Okay. With that said, let me move on here. There's another clip that, geopolitically speaking now, but there's another clip that's making the rounds too. I think I also put it on Gab as well, and I'll throw it in the war video also, but I believe it's in New York City if I had to take a guess. It could be anywhere, theoretically. But it's a Jewish woman, and she's on a street corner or on the sidewalk during some Palestinian Jewish protest kind of thing, back and forth, people carrying signs and waving flags and the whole thing. And she comes up on a couple of Orthodox Jews who are waving Palestinian flags. This throws the woman into a complete fit, and she has absolutely no idea what is going on. And these Jews are explaining to her that Zionism is not the same as Judaism. that they are different, that Zionists are more satanic, and they are interested in dominating the entire space and 1,000 other things. And again, one of the Jewish individuals openly says that Jews and Palestinians have lived in peace with one another for a very long time. I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, it just throws this woman into a complete fit, and you can see it in her face, and you see all of the expressions that she's making, and she's losing her mind. This right here again continues to prove that the Matrix is very real, and that these individuals who come face to face with a counter reality, I should say, that certainly goes against their perceived reality. As soon as that happens, I mean, they explode. They look like Agent Smith in the movie The Matrix when he inhabits someone else's body, and then their face changes and starts to warp, and then their body shakes, and then again they metaphorically take over the person to try to control them again. The woman is just so filled with anger and rage as to what she's seeing that she's completely confused. And this again is very similar to Plato's allegory of the cave. I mean, you get outside of the cave, having been inside of the cave your entire life, and then you look around, or you look at something that you didn't think you'd ever possibly see, and then you lose it because it goes against everything that you've known this entire time and everything that you've heard. Again, it's individuals getting out of their own echo chambers. It's individuals getting out of their own boxes, and the invisible prison that's been around them their entire life, that's been built up around them, of course, by government, entertainment, society, and all of that Jewish lobby control, so to speak. But again, it's beyond fascinating. So there's really no audio to play. I mean, I could play it, but you really have to see again their facial expressions, because she loses it. She doesn't know where to go. She's basically in a house of mirrors, looking around from person to person as her head is spinning on a swivel, and she she just doesn't know where to go and what question to ask, and she just says, "Why? Why is this happening? Why are you doing that?" And people are trying to explain to her, a number of particular things rather calmly. And then what does she do? She lashes out with actual physical attacks. She starts to slap a couple of people. And they look at her and they're like, "Calm down. Just listen to us explain this." And she can't handle it. Again, this is Agent Smith inside of the body, i.e. the devil, doing whatever they're doing to try to control this person as much as humanly possible, because that's what the devil wants, is just complete control over the mind and the body and the soul of these individuals. But again, this unfortunately is turning into, or certainly a example of, the society that we live in. Individuals that just do not want to learn. And they do not want to shed the skin that they grew up with, knowing that maybe it's time to shed that skin, and doing so will save your life. That learning new information is going to save your life, because it will change your outlook on things, and you might come to the realization that, again, we don't have it all figured out. We're not supposed to have it all figured out. Learning is supposed to be a lifelong activity. Evolving, growing, becoming a better person. These are the things that are supposed to be lifelong activities. But again, for some individuals, they're just stuck. And it's sad to watch, but it is certainly a reality. So there is that. There's also this. Again, a lot of hypocrisy here, and I'm shocked this isn't making the rounds more. This was on Forbes, and it was titled, "Israel reportedly used fake social media accounts to garner support from U.S. lawmakers on Gaza war." That was back on June 5th. Yeah, no kidding. It's because they're liars. And they have to. That's why they revisit all of these issues. It's just like, again, Stephen Crowder and Gateway Pundit last week revisiting the whole Tranny Festo fake Nashville shooting thing all over again. Oh, the Tranny Festo was released yet again in more pages, and they wanted to shoot up the building, and they wanted to do this, and they wanted to do that, and they used whatever it was, voucher money or something like that, to pay for the guns that they acquired. And I mean, it's just ritualized trauma. They're just trying to get people to relive particular things that are completely fake and sell them to people like they're real when they're not. It's nuts. Again, that's why you're consistently hearing all of this hostage stuff. Well, more hostages were released from Gaza and blah, blah, blah. And of course, they're not telling you that a lot of that's just fake. It's not even real. But again, people believe it. They see it in a headline and they go, yep, that happened. There's also this. This is from Zero Hedge. It was titled Washington Preparing to Punish the Maldives for Banning Israeli Passport Holders. Again, the Maldives is a Muslim majority vacation spot for some, and they've openly stated that they, again, are not accepting Israelis who have Israeli passports, and they don't want them there. Makes sense. Certainly have plenty of reasons as to why that's the case, but either way, that right there should show you who controls the United States. It is the Jewish lobby, and it is the United States of Israel, by and large. So there you have it. But again, thank God for the people like Thomas Massey in Congress, because he's calling out AIPAC, of course, and was doing that with Tucker, and those clips were making the rounds, and numerous other clips making the rounds of individuals walking through the halls of Congress, and outside of everybody's office, you can see the I Stand With Israel posters on everybody's doors, and that pretty much defines it all right there. Everybody's got an AIPAC person, and they have to check with those individuals first before they vote on something. They're completely controlled. They're completely owned. This is the government that we have to abolish. This is the one that we have to get rid of, and yeah, that's the way that it needs to be, in my opinion. So there you have it. Okay. There's also this. This is an interesting post from Ariel over on X, and it's certainly a different perspective here on Donald Trump, because I know that a lot of people, of course, attack him for being pro-Israeli, so a number of individuals think and say, and I know this is a controversial subject for a number of different individuals. Again, I'm not pro-Israel at all. I've pretty much made that clear. But with that said, I also know that there are Christians over there, even though they're not well-liked, and I, of course, don't like their government, not in the slightest. I don't like Khazarians, and I don't like the Jewish lobby, and a number of other things. I think I've been over this, at length. But I do want to, again, read this particular post because it's a different perspective and certainly an interesting one. Here's what he said. He said the following, and again, Josiah Richwine sent this my way, and we have a lot of dialogue back and forth, the two of us, over this particular subject, and it's interesting. But Ariel said this. He said, quote, Donald Trump is not pro-Israel. Here is one reason. I have many. He said South Africa has accused Israel of genocide at the United Nations top court, with more than 50 countries expressing support for this accusation. This support was given in the context of the ongoing conflict in Gaza. The specific names of these countries were not detailed in the available sources, but this broad support indicates significant international concern regarding Israel's actions in Gaza as perceived by these supporting nations. Have you all noticed Donald Trump has not come out and said anything negative about those countries accusing Benjamin Netanyahu of genocide? I mean, Donald Trump support Israel, right? So shouldn't that automatically come with denouncing countries that are on the offensive against Israel? I wonder why it's so hard to find those comments where Donald Trump is threatening to not do business with Turkey, and tariffs and taxes should be put on them up to 5% that would stifle their economy, like he stated would happen with Mexico if they didn't reduce illegal immigration. Why is he not stopping Vladimir Putin from destroying Khazarian territory in Ukraine? I mean, isn't Benjamin Netanyahu the head of the Khazarian mafia? And then he wrote, Hamas equals ISIS equals Black Lives Matter equals Antifa equals MI6 equals CIA equals Mossad equals NSA equals DGSE equals FBI equals Taliban equals MS-13 equals Al-Qaeda. He said, who controls all of this? The Khazarian mafia. But how would you know? Who controls the media? Who controls social media? Who controls radio? The Khazarians. Do not say Donald Trump is pro-Israel and leave out all of the things that the Israelis use, to subjugate governments to do their bidding. Why is Donald Trump attacking all of their tools? I just showed you an empty FBI building in Washington. All the alphabet agencies were defeated years ago. Why do you think Donald Trump got rid of Michael Flynn in a record 22 days? People keep saying Donald Trump is pro-Israel, but every time I turn around, he keeps doing anti-Israel shit. Think about this. Richard Dearlove and was head of MI6, it says, during the invasion of Iraq. He was criticized by the Iraq inquiry, for providing unverified intelligence about weapons of mass destruction to the Prime Minister Tony Blair. This was because they wanted to impose the USD on Iraq and keep their currency low so the black market can thrive. This is what allowed corruption to be even more rampant in the Middle East, and Iraq was forced into submission economically. Who was the country that benefited the most? Israel, because the goal was always for them to take over Palestine. You cannot do that if you have Iraq on the loose. Why do you think Israel supported Iran against Iraq during their war? Remember, Michael Flynn works for Richard Dearlove, MI6 agent, and Michael Flynn was mad that Barack Obama didn't blame Muslims for the attack on France back in 2015. Why? Because guess who was running for president? Donald Trump. And Michael Flynn knew it was going to be harder to perform an invasion due to another weapons of mass destruction, quote-unquote, rhetoric to ensure the petrodollar remains the default currency in the Middle East. And then he links an article by an Andrew Miller titled, and this is in foreignpolicy.com, titled, "Trump is not really pro-Israel, he's pro-Trump. The U.S. president is an unreliable ally," unquote. So again, it could be a hit piece. It could be, deception to some extent. It's possible. But again, you do have to ask yourself that question. He consistently goes after the media. He consistently criticizes the media. It seems like that's bad for their business. And that is the Khazarian Mafia, after all. They are the ones that run the media. They are the ones that run radio. And by criticizing all of them, which he has done, he's not really even endorsing a whole lot of individuals on the radio whatsoever. In fact, I would go so far as to say he's planted that seed in the minds of so many people that it's gotten to a point where even the people on the so-called right, politically speaking, can pick up on the hypocrisy of the people on the right, and that's happening even more. And that's a very good thing. Again, a person tunes into Glenn Beck, you're going to hear how stupid he sounds. A person tunes into Real America's Voice or Charlie Kirk, you're going to hear what these people say. You're going to hear the hypocrisy with everything that they do and everything that they say. And then, of course, the shut it down mentality that they have and the gatekeeping that they engage in. They are the enemy too. Because again, in a free and open society with a constitution that's supposed to be alive, we should be able to say whatever we want to say whenever we want to say it, no matter what. On the airwaves, no matter what. I don't think it's an accident that a lot of those radio shows don't take callers anymore. Again, there was a time when they would. But I think that they fully understand, because they probably all got the same memo. Hey, look, more and more people are waking up. There are more conspiracy theorists, quote unquote, out there, and we need to criticize them. So we're going to take less calls, and you're going to have to just talk more. And if we do take a call, we're going to vet the ever-living hell out of the caller and make sure that they stay on point and don't get argumentative and don't bring up something that's quote unquote controversial, because we don't want to do that, and we don't want to engage in theories and theorizing about conspiracies and blah, blah, blah. Again, that kind of gatekeeping is intentional, without a doubt. And it's the same tactic that any enemy uses to try to keep people pacified from the truth. Again, this is multidimensional. We have to understand that. I fully understand that he's taken copious amounts of money from individuals associated with the Jewish lobby. The question in the future is going to be, what are we going to see regarding a lot of these organizations? Is AIPAC going to be destroyed in the future? Are we going to see that cease to exist? Is he going to give another speech in an AIPAC conference again and say, you're our greatest ally and this is fantastic and, thank you everybody and I'll take all your donations and blah, blah, blah. Again, we can't see that anymore. That has to stop. Again, taking a trip over to Israel to touch the wall and wear the small hat and put the little note inside of the crack on the, on the side of the wall and all that nonsense, and humping the wall as they do. These are not the things that we need to see anymore. This is the kind of stuff that has to end. So this is the kind of thing, again, that we have to keep our eyes peeled on, because if we don't see those things ending and coming to an end, then things are not improving, certainly in that regard. and we continue to basically be a hijacked country. So there you go. It's my little rant on that, but I found the post thought-provoking, without a doubt. And again, they're right. This is a part of the whole Hamas, ISIS, Zionism, Khazarian mafia, Jewish control that people don't seem to understand. That when you're watching individuals argue between, Israel and Hamas, they're the same. They're funded by the same people. It's the same enemy. So yeah, it's just unfortunate because again, there are Christians in the middle who are getting murdered. And unfortunately, that's the aspect of the entire genocide that people are not talking about, which is unfortunate to say the least. So there you go. Okay, education stuff. Few things here, and then I want to get into some local news also and some of the number crunching that's going on with proof that these schools are failing and that they are broke and they are desperate like you would not believe. But first, this was from the Federalist very quickly, and it was titled Scholastic's Kid-Focused, quote-unquote, Read with Pride Guide Demonizes Anyone Without a Rainbow Identity. So Scholastic, of course, has jumped the shark. They're all in on the gays, and there you go. It says the Scholastic Book Fair used to be an exciting time for kids and a place where parents could feel safe knowing their kids would have a world of interesting educational and enlightening reading experiences. Well, I'm not sure about that. It goes on and says, unfortunately, like so many innocent joys of childhood, LGBT activists have taken that safety away. Scholastic has fully embraced not only gay and transgender education and fiction for kids at preschool age and above, but the full spectrum of extreme transgender and sexual ideology of the left. Again, shouldn't surprise anybody. It's a long article, doesn't need to be. We fully understand that the entire Library Association and everybody that they associate with are all in on the satanic rainbow agenda. So there is that. Basically, if the Scholastic Book Fair bus comes to your school, my recommendation is you not get on. There could be more going on that bus than book selling, if you know what I mean. Anywho, with that said, let me move on to this. This was sent to me by our Virginia educator who has now retired, thank God, and they plan on being on the show hopefully in the near future. But this is from InsideHigherEd.com, and it was titled, A Rough Month for Campus Cuts. The end of the academic year brought announcements of job and program cuts at many institutions. Some colleges are eliminating dozens of jobs to reduce operating costs. Why would that be? Squirt, squirt, squirt? I think we know. Let me rock through this article here because it brings up very specific colleges and universities. It says the following here, quote, as the academic year wound down for many institutions last month, administrators at a handful of colleges outlined big changes, with job cuts and program reviews underway or on the horizon. Cuts announced in May are among the deepest reported so far this year. Layoffs, it says, program reductions, and other belt-tightening measures are largely being driven by the usual suspects, declining enrollment and increased operating costs. Here's the latest on cuts announced at multiple colleges last month. Columbia College, Chicago. It says, amid enrollment and long-running financial difficulties, Columbia College Chicago is laying off 70 staff members and eliminating 32 vacant positions. It says the college faces a deficit that is expected to increase to $38 million by the end of the current fiscal year, according to the Tribune. Just for the sake of brevity, I'm going to kind of move through this and just hit these particular universities. Let's see. Brandeis University, if I'm saying that right, cited declining enrollment. Administrators announced last month that they plan to eliminate 60 jobs over the summer to reduce operating costs, so saith the Boston Globe. It says they are concentrated in staff and administrative roles as far as those cuts are concerned. It says the newspaper reported recent enrollment at roughly 5,300 students, which is down from past years. Normally it hovered between 5,700 and 5,800 students for much of the last decade, according to the Department of Education's Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. St. Cloud State University. Deep cuts are on the horizon at St. Cloud State University, where officials plan to cut dozens of academic programs and 57 faculty jobs due to financial woes, so saith the Minnesota Public Radio. Let's see. Administrators have said that the cuts are needed to correct a structural budget deficit. It says NPR reported that STCU lost $18 million last year and is projecting a $5.5 million loss this year, a number that would have likely reached $15 million if not for an infusion of state funding. Delta State University. I applied there, I think. Once in a galaxy far, far away. Financially struggling, Delta State University plans to cut 21 of its 61 programs. Majors slated for the chopping block include chemistry, English, and history. It says Delta State President Daniel Enos said last month that there are only 238 students enrolled in the 21 targeted programs. As part of the cost-cutting, administrators plan to eliminate Delta State's College of Arts and Sciences and restructure or consolidate various other budget units across campus. Yep. It says they've already laid off 17 staffers and will leave 49 vacant positions unfilled. Good luck. University of Lynchburg. It says late last month, the University of Lynchburg announced a restructuring effort that will shutter 12 undergraduate and 5 graduate programs, shrinking faculty and staff numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge because their next move is to close completely. That's their next move. There are less people going, which means you can't hire the people that you had there because there are less people. So then you're not just eliminating staff, of course, you're eliminating courses of study, majors and schools of study, and so on and so on. And before you know it, the only thing you're going to have is brick and mortar. You're not going to have anybody even there. And what was, again, the one thing that they all mandated people take in order to attend, and then use discretion when it came to accepting particular exemptions, so to speak. It can't get more obvious. And they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Not to mention, they're always fiscally irresponsible. They're always millions in debt. They're always adding useless programs instead of just sticking to the thing that made them work at their inception. If they'd have just done that, they'd be okay. And if they'd have just said no to government bioweapon injections, they'd probably be 100% fine financially. But this is of their own making. Again, it doesn't matter if it's public, private, charter schools, or the university setting. They're all financially irresponsible. And that's really the only thing that they have to do is be financially responsible. Here's the next university, Eastern Oregon University. In an effort to trim almost $5 million in operating costs, a budget plan approved at Eastern Oregon University last month will eliminate 4 staff positions and leave 23 others unfilled. It says 3 of the 4 staff cuts are administrative, according to a May presentation to the Board of Trustees, and the $4.8 million in budget reductions amount to a 8.41% cut, local media reported. Here's the next one. Let's see. How do you pronounce this? Viterbo University, struggling financially due to declining enrollment and probably your name. Plans to cut 25 positions to help ease the $5.5 million deficit projected for the current fiscal year. It says of the 25 positions to be eliminated, 14 are vacant, 2 other positions will be frozen. Yep. Northland College, Wisconsin. It says, which has teetered on the brink of closure in recent months, laid off 9 faculty members last month amid restructuring efforts. The next one here, Columbus State Community College, also one I applied to many eons ago. It says Columbus State Community College has eliminated 14 jobs as it grapples with an expected budget deficit. It says while none of the jobs were faculty positions, 2 were in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, thank God. The TV station reported, officially told WSYX that Columbus State is in the second year of a 3-year recovery plan from the 2022 COVID pandemic. which strained many institutions. Now, why was that? Why did it strain their institutions? Again, it's their own hand. They're in dire straits because they're not accepting any responsibility for their actions. And this is what happens when you don't accept responsibility and rework things as quickly as humanly possible, let alone go along with the lie to begin with. Well, this is where you end up. It goes on here. It says, let's see, other factors precipitating the cuts include a reported $6.8 million budget shortfall and less state funding than expected. Trust me when I mention that. I'm going to get into that later, specifically in Ohio with a K12 school district that I've brought up in the past and am keeping tabs on. But that's correct. The state of Ohio is providing these colleges, universities, and public schools, in particular at the K12 level, less money. And rightfully so. They have less people there. They have useless programs, and legislation has said, we're not going to give you this much money, so you need to start making cuts. And they don't want to do that. So as far as the public schools are concerned, what's their first move when they have to make cuts and they don't want to? And they want to keep their money right where it is? Well, they go to the voter, and they attempt to extort voters as much as they can by playing the desperation card as much as they do, and then they put a levy on the ballot, and then only the suckers vote for it. So I'll get to that in a minute, though, trust me. It goes on here, though. The next one is St. Norbert College. This is out of, Wisconsin. And it says they laid off 12 professors in March and is considering cutting tenured faculty members due to financial issues. And apparently 41 employees would be laid off, though the newspaper once said it was only going to be 35. Well, who cares? Adios. Next one, University of Southern Maine, announced last month that it would cut an unspecified number of positions as it drops an undergraduate scholars program, the Portland Press-Herald reported. Though the administrators did not indicate the number, the newspaper identified at least 5 jobs likely to be eliminated, some affiliated with the Russell Scholars Program, which the university website describes as an undergraduate learning community. Buffalo State University. This is the last one. Sweeping program cuts are coming to Buffalo State University, which plans to eliminate 37 programs that together enroll only 34 students. It says of the 37, 27 have already been approved for elimination, while another 10 are being reviewed for possible deactivation by the spring semester. No layoffs are reported tied to the program cuts, according to the Buffalo Business First. But Buffalo State currently has a hiring freeze and a voluntary separation program in place as it navigates a $16.5 million structural deficit. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. They're done. Again, you've probably never even heard of these colleges. Hell, I hadn't heard of half of them myself. The fact is that the small ones are the first ones to go. The big ones are doing what they can to, again, puff their chests out and say, remember us, remember our name, we still matter. And then, of course, they're even giving away free tuition, which I've reported here on the show and has been brought to my attention. Again, they can rearrange the deck furniture on the Titanic all they want. They can do whatever they'd like. And yes, the elimination of programs and people and courses of study is usually the first place that they go. But the actual schools themselves, even at the K-12 level, that don't want to do that, they immediately run to the taxpayer then. They immediately start putting levies on the ballot, save our schools, we need your help, and all that nonsense. You talk about evil propaganda. The only job for these people, again, as I said earlier, is to balance the books, not overspend and save money. But they didn't do that. Now let me move on to K-12. I've brought up this school district before numerous times. I've played audio from their board meetings. You talk about a room of just brainwashed asleep people. It is this room, without a doubt. The Westerville City Schools in Westerville, Ohio. The other thing with this, too, is as I get into the numbers here with one of their treasurer's presentations, is you have to understand that this is happening in every public school across the nation. No doubt about it. And Westerville is not a small school district. They have 3 high schools, lots of middle schools, and a gazillion elementary schools. They also, by the way, have preschool. And this, too, is one of those money wasters that they brought in that they actually believe needs to exist, a preschool. And that the more students who attend preschool, of course, well, you have to hire adults to watch over them. Because again, it's basically daycare. And it just indoctrinates them rather into getting into the kindergarten system even earlier and acclimating them to the environment. And, we need them younger, and the younger they are, then we bring them here and we can brainwash them and mold their little brains into whatever we want. And then before you know it, by the time they're in first, second, and third grade, they still can't read and they still can't write. But anyway, regarding the money, this is fascinating stuff. Because during these treasurer presentations, this is when they make their years-long projections as to where they think things are going to end up. In one of the latest presentations back in May here that the treasurer provided, it's beyond embarrassing. And again, you should see the looks on these people's faces. I mean, their faces are in their hands are on their faces, and they're just going, I don't know. I don't know how we get a hold of this. The fact is they're bankrupt. They're not just broke. They're bankrupt. They're in debt and going further in debt. So let me show you one of these slides, or at least describe visually one of these slides here. One of the slides in their presentation says state funding formula. It says school funding is a shared cost between the state of Ohio and Westerville schools. And then it says the following here. Hang on, let me pull this up real quick. Okay, it says state versus local share. So again, who is, basically what's the percentage of the amount of money that they're receiving from both the state and local taxes? In fiscal year of 2019, the state of Ohio was providing Westerville City Schools 43% of their budget, while 57% was coming from local stuff, local taxes. So again, 43% and 57% in the fiscal year of 2019. In the fiscal year of 2025, the state of Ohio is providing 23% of their revenue, and they're asking for and apparently attempting to get the rest of that and the rest of that difference from the public, which is 77%. So from the fiscal year of 2019 to 2025, just based on state revenue alone and the money that they get from the state, it's been cut in half. There's been a 50% decrease. Again, she makes it look like it's only a 20% decrease. Well, of course it's a 20% decrease. It's 20 percentage points, but it's half of what you were getting from the state. And now they're asking more for the public and basically attempting to extort more money from the actual public. It's astounding. Again, they're not just broke. They're in debt. In fact, they showed a chart that is absolutely hilarious, and it was titled Changes in Balance. And I want to describe this for you because this, I'm sorry, I just have to laugh. This is the whole thing in a nutshell. This is their entire financial situation. This is their entire bankruptcy in one line graph. Again, it's titled Changes in Balance, and it says general fund revenue, expenditures, and unreserved balance. Their expenditures are a red line and are going up in the, what is that? Millions, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So it's upwards by the projected fiscal year of 2028, almost reaching 300 million for that year in expenditures. Their revenue has flatlined, which is a green line. So below that is a complete green line. And then their unreserved balance has plummeted. And they see it plummeting from fiscal year of 2023 to the time when 2028 rolls around. And then they're in the red. Again, I think that a fourth grader can look at this and understand what this means. Again, this chart alone proves that they're broke, without a doubt. Now, I want to bounce backwards because there's also this chart. And again, this is sad and very telling. This shows their expenditures, and this is a problem. And as I've brought up in the past, focus in on the insurance costs, because the insurance costs are what are getting blasted here, and they don't know why. Keep in mind, the going rate for jabbed populations in American K-12 schools was probably upwards of 70 to 80%, if not higher than that. Remember, compliance is the number one thing that they all wanted. Going door to door, classroom to classroom, have you gotten your shots yet? Or compiling a list, make sure you get your shots. And now everybody's using the doctor's office more than they've ever used it. And they don't know why. What's the one thing you all did over the last 4 years? Certainly 3 years. But here's what it says. This is their expenditures in millions. In fiscal year, their personal services were $118 million in 2023. Their forecasted personal services in the fiscal year of 2028 go from $118 million to $159.13 million. Hello? I mean, it's amazing. Employees' retirement and insurance benefits. In the fiscal year of 2023, they were $39.66 million. In the fiscal year of 2028, they are projected to be $62.53 million. Almost double. Not quite. And then again, it just goes down the line. It doesn't matter the subject. Purchase services, supplies and materials, capital outlay. I mean, everything seems to be going up for the most part. Not capital outlay necessarily, that's pretty low, but it does double, certainly by fiscal year of 2025. Either way, the interesting part is that when you watch these board meetings, you're going to hear how uncomfortably calm they are, describing their own insolvency. It's fascinating to me. I find it completely fascinating. They are gaslighting themselves to some extent. They're certainly gaslighting the public. And this is a school board that wants new school buildings. They want more renovations in their already existing school buildings. They've lost the plot. Again, all they had to do was take all of that ESSER money that they got from the CARES Act and those 3 checks, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, which for this school district totaled over $31 million. All they had to do was sit on it and not spend it, and then give it back to the government. That's all they had to do, but they took it. Because again, they thought to themselves, well, it's free money from the government. Why would I turn that down? Keeping it was a huge mistake. Again, new windows to protect against COVID, a new AC system, because of COVID, and all these other ridiculous reasons and things that they did with that money. And they have no idea that they were making the state bankrupt, and that this was going to be the thing that came down the line. That government was giving them all of this money, but in the future, we're not going to give you so much. Again, in the state of Ohio, for public education, the budget of what the state of Ohio was giving this particular school district is being eliminated by almost 50%. That's huge. And when you hear these people talk again about wanting to cut programs, they're almost in tears because they've convinced themselves that they need all of these programs and all of these people and all of these policies that are in place. And then they start to talk again, as they did in this meeting, about how horrible it's going to be if we have to make cuts because we don't want to do that. What they don't know, as a large school district in the state of Ohio, is that the small school districts have been feeling the pain for the last 3 years plus. They've already been feeling the financial pain. It's the small schools that feel it first. The big ones, they always end up feeling it, and now the big ones are feeling the pain. And they have it coming because they were doing the same things the small schools were doing. They have champagne taste on a beer budget, and it never works out. And they don't understand this. I mean, it's it's incredible. You want to go into these meetings and laugh at their faces and say, can you all add and subtract, multiply and divide? Do you have any idea that when you're spending $50,000, if not more than that, upwards of $100,000 potentially for diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinators, that you're literally making yourselves broke in the process? I mean, you're morally bankrupt, but now you're financially bankrupt. All of this inviting in of all of these programs and, oh, we need that. And, oh, we do this for these kids. And if we don't have it for these kids, quote unquote, then we're not going to be the school that we need to be. And they just brainwash themselves into believing that every single thing that they've adopted over the course of 2+ decades has to continue to exist. And it's all fraudulent. They're going to be forced to make cuts. As I've said before, any taxpayer who checks the box for, yep, I want my property taxes to go up because I want to continue to pay for this horrible school district and fund all of their ridiculous, degenerate activities and their brainwashing and everything else, all the lies they teach and everything else. The person who does that has also lost their minds. You have to let these schools collapse. You have to put these people in a position where they have to cut people and fire people. Again, in these board meetings, they bring in, with regularity, at least 3 administrators who are a part of their whole, whatever it is, building management team and whatever else. Special education coordinator and student coordinator and school coordinator. These people make money hand over fist. Fire them. You fire these people. I'm shocked that schools, again, continuously hire administrators who have massive paychecks and they do next to nothing. In fact, the only thing that they really do is help facilitate the bankruptcy of the school district on a day in and day out basis, and they don't know it either, that they're a cog in that wheel. They help the whole thing move, and they're completely unaware. I love it. I find it fascinating. But you talk about a group of individuals, again, that could not possibly be more brainwashed. And again, if you showed up to, I think about it all the time, walking into that particular school district and walking up to their lectern and calmly telling them what they've actually done to themselves and they don't even know it. I'm telling you, my words would go in one of their ears and out the other. It would be like a cool ocean breeze right through their thin little brains. And there isn't a single aspect of any truth that I would tell them that they would be able to grasp. Not to mention, one of the board members, I think she's the vice president, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe even the president. She is the president of the school board. She's in my Deadpool. I mean, she coughs up a lung every single board meeting. She's jabbed to the bone. She's at least 3 deep, if not more than that. I'm shocked she's still alive. But these people, again, they have no idea what they've done with their own staff. They have no idea the pain that they caused endless families and endless people. But fortunately, the flip side of that coin, thank God, was that endless people woke up to what was going on. And they've openly said, we're leaving. We're pulling our children out of this school district permanently. That's happened all over the nation. That's a trend that isn't even a trend now. It's a standard. It's the thing that's just happening. It's the thing that just is. And that's beautiful. So I could keep rambling about it, but yeah, it's just amazing. I find this absolutely incredible. Okay. Let me see here. Again, that not to twist the knife, but as I've said before, that's the kind of stuff that Chris Rufo doesn't get into. That's the kind of stuff that Libs of TikTok doesn't get into. And frankly, that's the kind of thing, financially speaking and numbers-wise, that most individuals who make comments about the subject of education never get into. It's right there in the numbers. Their bankruptcy and their decision-making, and poor decision-making at that, is right there in the numbers. And they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. So there you go. Okay. I also received this. This is another anonymous message that was sent to me by someone certainly associated with the teachers union and or the local school district where I live. And I received this email from the teachers union, and this is public, so it's not like it's classified by any stretch, because it went out to just about everybody in the district. And here's what it says. You can't make this level of stupidity up either. This is fascinating. It says the following: Good morning. This was both sent out in May and in June. The same message twice. It says, quote, Good morning. I'm sorry for sending you a complex email on the last staff day, but Talawanda City School District may owe you money. Keep in mind, this is going out to all of the school employees. Certainly those that are getting paid as school teachers. It says, please carefully read this email. The Teacher Education Association has determined that the administration has recently been placing staff with previous teaching experience on the wrong pay scale or on the wrong step, they said. The Teacher Education Association strongly advocated for the impacted members, and 12 current staff members will be getting back pay for 2 years in some cases, and will be moved to the current step for the future. It says the administration is now asking Teacher Education Association to sign an agreement to settle all existing claims of incorrect step placement. While the mistakes appear to be limited to staff hired in the last 2 years, it is possible that they have occurred previously. Based on the administration's behavior, it appears that they are worried that mistakes were made farther in the past. Thus, we are reluctant to sign any agreement until we get a better understanding of how many staff members might be impacted. It says Ohio law requires that the district provide you credit for the years of teaching or military experience up to 5 years of experience. If you have more than 5 years experience, they must give you at least 5 years of experience credit. Please see the table below that lays out the step you should have been hired at based on your experience. And so 0 levels of experience, or years of experience rather, you're on step 0, 1 you're on step 1, 2 years you're on step 2, so on and so on and so on. And then 6+ years experience, you're at minimum of step 5. It goes on here and it wraps up. It says, when you were hired by Talawanda City School District, you received less than shown on the table. Please reply to this email with the number of years experience you had prior to working at TSD and the step you were placed at. It says you do not need to contact us if their HR person has already reached out to you about the incorrect step. It says please check your steps and reply with any possible issues by Wednesday, the 29th of May. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions. And those would be the 2 members of the union, so it looks like. And there you have it. You have a school district that is also teetering on being bankrupt, which they will be, thank God. And they are openly not paying their staff members. And then, of course, what are they doing? Well, they're going to work toward a levy on the next ballot, as is, I might add, the Westerville City School District. In fact, in that board meeting that I was previously describing regarding their finances, the treasurer openly said, we don't have a choice. We need to vote on a levy, and it needs to be over $4 million. And she said, and even with that levy, we'll still be broke. We'll still be in the red. I mean, you can't fix this. It's over. It's over. They can't get their hands around this. It's more mercury with a fork. They're just constantly stabbing at it, going, I'll get it this time, we'll get it this time. And they never get it. And they're not going to get it. But this is just negligent. This is full-blown negligent. Not paying teachers the amount of money that they were contractually obligated to receive is astounding. This level of incompetence is next level stupid. With that said, of course, they're going to put a levy on the ballot also, because what they need money for, so they say, is they need money to pay their administrators more than what they're already making. They want administrators to make more money, and they're already some of the highest paid in the entire county. And they're lying to everybody about that by saying, no, they're not among the highest paid. They clearly are. I've read those figures on the show here before, I think. I mean, they make plenty of money. They're doing just fine. And they're not leaving because of low pay. That was also disproven, and that was another lie that the superintendent where I live taught, because these people are pathological liars. Again, anybody voting for this, they've lost their minds. Anybody voting to tax themselves to financially attempt to fix the problems that these school districts cause themselves, you're a fool. You're an absolute fool. And this school district lost the last ballot, the last levy ballot, or levy vote, I should say, on the ballot, by 3,000 votes. The only way they get 3,000 more votes for any kind of a levy is if again, they attempt to manipulate more people, which they're never going to. I mean, they're not going to get 3,000 votes. Let me just say that out front here. They're not going to get that because you can't find 3,000 people unless they have illegals voting or they have dead people voting. They, of course, unfortunately, are always trying to coerce university students to vote. And they want 3,000 more university students to vote for local K12 issues and have the vote swing their way. Good luck. Not going to happen. Most university students, when they move from one town to another, don't vote in the town where they're attending school because it doesn't impact them. Again, a lot of people say, well, what goes on here impacts them too. No, it doesn't. They don't care, nor should they. They're too busy, wearing pajamas to class and eating nachos half the time. They're not focused on local elections, and it really doesn't impact them at all, nor should it. But these people have lost their minds. Okay, enough of that. Let me move on to this. This just broke. Very interesting here. Jurors reach verdict in Hunter Biden gun trial. Guilty of all 3 felonies and faces up to 25 years in prison. Well, wouldn't you know it? Isn't that great? And then, of course, once Hunter Biden is in jail, then you can throw the whole laptop information on top of him while he's in jail, and he'll never get out of jail. And then he'll just be, drinking hand sanitizer for the rest of his life while he's raped to death. All good news, ladies and gentlemen. All good news. All good things are happening here. Okay. What else? There's this. Check this out and head on a swivel regarding this. There's no date on this particular memo or this letter, but it certainly is a bit of extortion, and it certainly shows that Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQ Alliance are joining forces, and this is not good. So again, there's no date on this particular letter, but let's assume that it was recent. It was making the rounds the other day, and I think I put this on Gab also. It says Black Lives Matter in the upper left-hand corner and LGBTQ plus on the right-hand side. Pizza Shimiza, if that's a real name. Director, their first name is Pizza? Are you kidding me? Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Portland, Oregon. It says the following regarding the Summer of Rage. Yikes. It says, quote, ally. As we prepare to protest attacks on our people in cities across the country, in partnership with our friends in Antifa and Gen Z for Change, we are aware that our allies, in bold, have unfortunately gotten caught up in previous protests. We do not wish for any of our allies to experience property damage or business disruptions. I feel like this was, I don't know, was this 4 years ago? I'm not sure. Again, there's no date on it, but I'm just going to keep reading. It says, as such, we have developed a protest protection portal that our field lieutenants will use in respective cities to help protect our allies. By becoming an ally or continuing in our support for our causes, using our portal, we will notify our ground troops to steer clear of your business or businesses and work to protect your property and operations. It says to become an ally, you have your and have your business locations added to our portal. Remit a check made to BLM LGBTQ Plus Alliance. Mail to 6475 East Pacific Coast Highway, number 370, Long Beach, California, 90803. Use the attached worksheet to provide business DBA name, address, phone number, and point of contact for each location that you wish listed on our portal. And then here's their price breakdown. So basically, they're asking for money so that your business doesn't get burnt to the ground or attacked or windows broken. If you're an ally, you can pay $500 per location. But if there's 25 plus locations, then you only have to pay $100 per location. It says we also want to provide an opportunity to our most loyal allies to partner and support for our administrative, media, travel, and legal expenses by offering a partnership opportunity. This is hilarious. It's extortion. Give us money and we won't burn your shit to the ground. It says, if you're a partner, then pay us $2,500. Any denomination is welcome and appreciated. Together with all our allies and partners, we will beat back the fascists who continue to oppose our people as we fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion, unquote. Signed, and Eric James, AERICK, pronouns he, him, if you were curious, Director, Allyship Development, BLM LGBTQ Plus Alliance. Email blmlgbtqalliance@gmail.com. Address 6475 East Pacific Coast Highway, number Portland 370 Long Beach, California again, 90803. And at the bottom, it says BLM LGBTQ Alliance, Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Detroit, Oakland, New York, Atlanta, Portland, Seattle, Washington, D.C., Long Beach, Ferguson, San Francisco, Newark, Las Vegas, Minneapolis, Phoenix, Portland, and St. Louis. Ladies and gentlemen, there are your Marxist organizations and locations right there. If Adolf Hitler were in charge, he'd burn them to the ground, and rightfully so. So, again, I don't know if that was from 4 years ago or if that's recent, but keep an eye out on that. Okay, what else here? Zero Hedge, one more regarding the jabs. This was from last Wednesday. It was titled Heavily Shorted Novavax Soars, as FDA panel decides on next COVID shot. So Novavax has themselves another COVID shot, and it looks like their stock increased dramatically in the month of May and now into the beginning of June here. Note to self, don't take the Novavax shot or any shot. And finally, this was making the rounds last week too. This is from Renette Sunham Foghorn Express, or Renette Sunham's foghornexpress.substack.com, titled Breaking Vaccine Mandate Reckoning, Courts Open Door to Liability Lawsuits. It says the COVID house of cards crumbles as zealous officials face the consequences for coercive vaccine mandates in a groundbreaking court ruling. This was on Friday, June 7th, in a groundbreaking decision. It says that should have vaccine pushers shaking in their boots. The Ninth Circuit has cracked open the door to government officials, school districts, local governments, and other public entities being held liable for the injuries caused by their draconian COVID-19 vaccine mandates. It says the court's ruling in Health Freedom Defense Fund Incorporated versus Carvalho, if I'm saying that right, suggests that the COVID-19 vaccines are shown to not prevent transmission, only reduce symptoms for the recipient. Then officials who force them on individuals as a condition of keeping their jobs, staying in school, etc., may find themselves in the legal crosshairs. God, let's hope so. But of course, that would take an awake person in order to file such a lawsuit, certainly a class action lawsuit. And ladies and gentlemen, if this happens with universities and K12 schools, their insurance companies are going to panic also. And they're not going to be able to cover the costs, which means if they pay out, well, they're going to have a hard time finding insurance. And this is where this backs up on the insurance industry also. It does say at the end of this, though, it says that the Ninth Circuit's decision could have far-reaching consequences for vaccine manufacturers, government officials again, and employers who implemented mandatory vaccination policies. It says if the plaintiff's allegations are substantiated, it could call into question the legal justification for such mandates and potentially expose these entities to liability. However, the decision focused on the plaintiff's requests for an injunction against the school district's policy. It did not definitively rule on monetary liability for individual officials. Separate state laws govern when local government employees or entities can be sued for damages. It says, as the case moves forward in federal court, it will be closely watched by legal experts, public health officials, and citizens alike. It says the outcome of this seminal court decision will obviously have significant implications, unquote. Yeah, it certainly could. But again, it takes awake individuals who have been jab injured, lost their jobs from the jabs, or are jab dead with living family members in order to go after these people and these institutions. And you'd better have all your ducks in a row and all your I's dotted and your T's crossed with stone cold proof that it was in fact the shots, because the insurance companies and the lawyers, rather, that work for the insurance companies are going to do whatever they have to do to say that you have no proof that the shots did this and caused injury and or your death and blah, blah, blah. Again, the truth is out there. The information is out there of what these bioweapons are doing to people. So we'll see where that goes in the future, no doubt about it. One more quick thing here regarding the Hunter Biden verdict. I find this fascinating, and this is certainly going to make things interesting going forward. Apparently, he could be sentenced in October. So you have to assume that Joe Biden would pardon him. But wouldn't that be interesting if people found out that Joe Biden wasn't really the president of the United States because he wouldn't be able to pardon his own son? See what I mean? Wouldn't that be fun? Quite the revelation. What do you mean he can't pardon him? Well, as it turns out, he's not the legal president. He's not the commander-in-chief. Therefore, no pardon works. So there's that aspect, which I think would be quite the eye-opener for a number of people. There also, of course, is the election, which we all know is coming up, and whether they delay it, postpone it, don't have it, whatever, would Hunter Biden remain in jail during that time? Of course, all of this might be used as a political tool, and if he were to write a pardon, which were actually to be believed and go through, having Hunter Biden get out of jail or not even go to jail as a result of being convicted of 3 felony gun charges would certainly stir the pot. That would piss off a whole lot of people. No doubt about that one either. Again, at the exact same time, if an election is delayed, what does that mean regarding all of this? I have no idea. Again, I don't know who's pulling the strings here, but I find this to be absolutely interesting, and we'll certainly have to see what happens going forward. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening as always. I appreciate it, and I will catch you on Friday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.